Dodging Bikers and Gymnasts, Teaching English to Children Who Do Not Remain Still. A presentation by Denise Kinsinger for the Virtual ELT Summit. Theme: Innovative Approaches to English Teaching and Learning. Privately tutoring introduces special and specific pedagogical challenges, particularly when students, for whatever reason, do not remain stationary during lessons. Such challenges can arise for various reasons. These can include the family's expectations of their children. For example, in Russia, children do not usually begin school prior to age 7 and therefore are not expected to sit for any length of time. A child's natural propensity for movement, and a child's previous experiences with ESL tutors. For example, they may have been told that if they don't like you, the parents will get a different tutor, or they may have had a beloved tutor recently leave them. In all of the aforementioned situations, and others that I haven't mentioned because the list would become too long, a tutor may find that a child's behavior is less than ideal. In every scenario, the tutor must find a way around these psychological obstacles to reach the child, recognizing that, although their goal is teaching a language, a child's, and I dare say even an adult's, primary goal in life is connection with the people around them. As child psychiatrist Jean Clinton writes, "Children learn best in an environment that focuses upon relationships, and if kids are strongly connected to their teachers, they will learn more and have less challenging behaviors. In order for any effective tutelage to occur, a connection with the student or students first must be formed. This connection can be forged through a variety of means." The purpose of this paper is to elucidate how, despite the obstacles to learning that movement initially appears to present, it still is possible to teach a child, even while he or she is in motion or even deliberately ignoring you. To accomplish this, first of all, a tutor must build a foundation of friendliness. As an example, one of my past young tutees, age 5, at first was very resistant to speaking English. The English tutor who had preceded me had attempted to read Dr. Seuss books with him, but the books that she chose were too far above his current English level. Because of his frustration at not being able to understand his previous tutor, the child had shoved the Dr. Seuss books into his lowest bureau drawer and absolutely refused to look at them. And some of you may feel this is an appropriate reaction to Dr. Seuss material in general, but I was saddened by this action. Due to the child's previous adverse experience with the English language and resulting hostility towards English speakers, I first needed to befriend him if I was to accomplish anything. To do this, for the first few months that I worked with him, I simply played alongside him and used a mixture of English and Russian words to communicate, until I was certain that he understood me and knew that I was on his side. After 3 to 4 months, I tried once more to speak with him only in English during our sessions together, and he accepted this, although somewhat grudgingly. Eventually, he was happy for me to communicate with him solely in English, apart from an occasional Russian word added for clarity, and he began to reply to me in English. Had I not taken the time to build a friendship with the child and to show an interest in his activities and preferences, I am certain we would have made no progress. With this child, as with others, it was absolutely critical for me as a teacher to get to know him and his style of learning first, and only then try to teach. But what should a tutor do when the child that they have befriended primarily prefers constant movement? How can you teach a language to someone who is whizzing past you on a bicycle, or attempting, and succeeding at, gymnastic feats? Naturally, teaching methodologies for exceptionally active children must be adapted to the situation, and the teacher must also be flexible and change strategies on the spot, if necessary. For the purposes of this study, I will focus upon 5 exceptionally active children that I tutored, and the strategies that I used with them. The children ranged in age from 3 to 11 years old. Most of them also attended an English kindergarten or had some exposure to English before I began tutoring them. The pedagogical approaches that I used with the children depended upon their ages. Playing music and singing together proved to be an effective way to teach the youngest children English in a painless way. Dasha, and all the children's names have been changed for privacy purposes, the youngest child that I tutored was 3 years old when I began working with her. She was also the indulged youngest child in her family, and the concept of sitting still did not exist for her. With Dasha, it was necessary to use many role-play games and constantly engage her in conversation. But she did not always want to converse, and instead preferred to ride her bicycle around the family's billiard table on their home's lowest level. Whenever Dasha decided that she wanted to ride her bicycle, I would place my iPad on the billiard table, turn on an educational song playlist, and we would ride around the table for hours, singing songs like Kids TV 123's A is for Apple, Apple. And through this exercise, Dasha effortlessly absorbed English grammatical structures and phonetics, as well as had an enjoyable time. Dasha's family also had a trampoline that she and her brother and sister enjoyed jumping on during the summer months. Once more, English was a pedagogical lifesaver, since the children could jump on the trampoline and sing English songs, thereby continuing to learn while also soaring through the air. Dasha's older sister, Nastya, also was fond of riding her bicycle around the billiard table. Nastya was 6 years old and beginning to read in English when I worked with her, so I needed to find a way to help her improve her reading skills while she also was riding a bicycle. To accomplish this, I relied upon a tried-and-true method, flashcards. As the British Council website notes, for children at reading age, flashcards can be used in conjunction with word cards. These are simply cards that display the written word. Word cards should be introduced well after the pictorial cards so as not to interfere with correct pronunciation. While Nastya rode around the billiard table, I stood at a corner of the room and held up a flashcard with a new sight word on it every time she made a lap around the table. If she said the word correctly, I placed it at the back of the pile of flashcards. If she said it incorrectly, she had to repeat the word when she came around the billiard table the next time. In this way, Nastya learned all of the Dolch sight words and gained greater fluency in reading, the few times that I managed to get her to sit and read from an actual book. Memorizing poetry and nursery rhymes also is an excellent method for learning to understand the innate rhythm and syntax of a language. When the language learner is disinterested in sitting down to read a book of poetry or rhymes, however, imparting this knowledge is slightly more complicated. Early on in my ESL teaching career, I had 2 young students ages 4 and 6 who only wanted to play on their playground and nothing else. Fortunately for me, they already had some knowledge of the English language from attending an English kindergarten, but my role was to raise their level of English. They were not disinterested in poetry, thankfully, so I would memorize a new poem or rhyme every week or 2 weeks, depending upon how quickly they learned, and teach it to them while we played. We did not analyze the poems. Instead, my aim was to teach English through poetry, not to teach the poetry itself. One of my most active students was a 10-year-old boy who also was an accomplished gymnast. He had a personal gym in the play area of his home. He refused to practice his English with me unless he also could do gymnastics. So we came to an agreement. For 20 minutes of every lesson, I would ask him general knowledge trivia questions relating to the English-speaking world at large. He could do a backflip or 2 onto his gym mat, and then he had to answer the question, in perfect English, that I had just asked him. This worked well for us. After expending his energy doing gymnastics for that length of time, he was happy to sit and complete a writing or reading assignment with me. Although this child's level of English already was high, using quizzes and trivia games can make a nice change for any student, and it may give students who aren't the best at English a chance to shine in other areas. The results of these somewhat unorthodox approaches to teaching English were not perfect. Yet, considering the circumstances, I was pleased that any progress was made at all. All of the children's spoken English improved as a result of these more informal English interactions. In particular, the children who learned the short poems and rhymes greatly improved their English pronunciation as a consequence of frequently repeating the same words. The children also demonstrated increased empathy and emotional awareness for those around them, and learned to think of themselves as linguistically capable, contributing to their self-confidence in other areas of life as well. The best result of these interactions was the friendship that developed between us. They all were sad when it was time for me to leave, and I was equally sorry to go. As can be seen from this study, privately tutoring students who constantly are on the go is rather different from a classroom setting where students are, for the most part, expected to remain at their desks, listen to their teacher, and complete lessons quietly. Movement, however, is not a negative facet of children's learning, and, in fact, many pedagogical experts, such as Anthony Pellegrini, encourage moving towards more mobile classrooms rather than retaining the stationary ones of past educational experiences. This then places private tutors at the edge of educational boundaries, providing them with an apt laboratory for future ESL classroom experiences. The strategies that worked best with my active tutees were ones that took their personal interests seriously and acknowledged them foremost as people and secondarily as students. What is critical for any student's learning success is for him or her to feel heard and appreciated. It is then that enthusiastic language acquisition takes place. Especially in the cases of early years learners, it is critical for teachers to incorporate movement into the curriculum, and teachers should take their cues from their individual students as to what types of movement will best serve them. Thank you.